women in Puerto Rico have played an important role in the development of history. If we study women from a social context, women, as in other countries, have been marginalized in the most important sectors, such as politics, employment, and equal rights. For years, women in Puerto Rico were only considered for domestic work and were prevented from being part of the development of the society in which they lived in, the culture, and above all, they were limited to the achievements of their ambitions they had as women. However, it is important to note that although in the first half of history, women had a social boom, after the American colonization of the island, women began to capture quotas of social participation, forming an essential part of our history. That is why today I am proud to be part of this effort, representing women, because just as we have fought in the past to advance women's rights, today I fight for the equality of all Puerto Ricans, socially, economically, and politically. The history that defines the people of Puerto Rico has been one full of stumbles, uncertainties, and stagnation. While we have managed to overcome in Puerto Rico that is suffering an economic and political recession, we must aspire to guarantee a stable future for the generations that are growing up and those to come. The political euphoria that we are experiencing at this time is the result of people who are tired of coming to Puerto Rico with limitations and no hope for development. The people of Puerto Rico, aware of the problem of our territorial relationship, have expressed themselves in different ways to demand that the U.S. Congress take action on our social, political, and economic future. The plebiscite on Puerto Rico's status has been one of the main forums in which the people have expressed themselves on the preferential status for Puerto Rico. However, other mechanisms have also been used to raise the issue of Puerto Rico's disadvantaged status in its relationship with the United States. Today, the United States is composed of 50 states, 48 of which are often referred to as mainland states, to differentiate them from Alaska and Hawaii, both because of their location and because of their insular nature, as are the island territories, such as Puerto Rico. Since the independence of the 13 British colonies on July 4, 1776, the United States did not officially stop growing until President Dwight D. Eisenhower approved the incorporation of Alaska and Hawaii as the 49th and 50th states, respectively. The construction of the country, mainly throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, was the result of various forms of territorial expansion. On one hand, much of the territory was acquired through purchases and transfers of British, French, and Spanish and Mexican territories. Among other examples, we find the cases of the purchase of Louisiana and Florida. On the other hand, the United States acquired some territories by conquest from other political entities, such as the Republic of Texas or the United Mexican States. In the case of Puerto Rico, it became a part of the United States as a result of the Spanish-American War, which culminated in the Treaty of Paris on December 10, 1898, between Spain and the United States. The Treaty of Paris set a precedent for the United States as it was the first time it acquired a territory without the intention of making it a state. The expansionist policy of the United States in the 19th century, before the Spanish-American War, reflected a theory, that of incorporation as a territory in preparation for statehood. All territories acquired multiplied their original population and dissipated boundaries with a view to integrating them as members of the American nation. The Treaty of Paris provided that the political conditions and civil rights to be conferred on the territories acquired under the treaty would be determined by Congress. This idea, practiced by the United States in the colonization of Puerto Rico, was contrary to the value it preached as a nation, since it was precisely on those principles that it based its independence. The Tennessee Plan is a strategy that was founded in 1795 for the incorporation of Tennessee as a state of the Union. As part of the process, a referendum was held in which the majority of the people voted in favor of admitting Tennessee as a state. A law was then passed to elect a legislature with 2 senators and representatives who would go to the United States Congress to represent the mandate of the people and achieve the incorporation of Tennessee as a state of the Union. For its part, Puerto Rico has taken different mechanisms that emerge in the self-determination of the people to determine its political future. As part of these mechanisms, Puerto Rico passed legislation in 2017 to adopt the Tennessee Plan and held a referendum of the people where statehood obtained 97% of the voters' support. Accompanied by that process, the Act of Admission was filed by Resident Commissioner Jennifer Gonzalez Colon. Due to the extraordinary circumstances that occurred with the atmospheric event of Hurricane Maria and the devastation it left on the island, unfortunately, the process was hindered. Puerto Ricans were recently granted the opportunity to express themselves again, this time under a particular plebiscite where the people were asked if they wanted statehood, yes or no. As a result of the plebiscite, statehood obtained 52.5% of the votes. Accompanying this process, the Puerto Rico Statehood Admission Act was filed under H.R. 1522 by our resident commissioner, Jennifer Gonzalez, and Florida Representative Darren Soto. The bill was filed on March the 2nd in commemoration of the 104th anniversary of the granting of U.S. citizenship to Puerto Ricans. Since the filing of H.R. 1522, it has the support of 60 members of Congress, including senators and representatives, such as Alaska Representative Don Young. Finally, Puerto Rico finds itself in a historic scenario where for the first time after 123 years as a territory of the United States and more than 500 years of colonialism, Puerto Rico will have the opportunity to be admitted as a state of the Union. Puerto Rico has in its favor the number of U.S. citizens residing in the territory, with approximately 3 million citizens, according to the most recent census. This would represent a significant electoral weight, which would give it more political power than 25 states in the nation. For all the aforementioned reasons, the Puerto Rico Statehood Admission Act, H.R. 1522, should be taken into consideration in order for the Puerto Rican people to be able to ratify the results of the past plebiscite. Thank you for your attention.